All right, welcome back everybody. The last video I talked about putting the front bumpers on, and those were the stainless steel aftermarket ones that I picked up from Rimmer Brothers. One of my viewers, John, asked, in retrospect, would I have ordered them again? And the simple answer is no. No, I wouldn't have. They cost me, with shipping and all that kind of stuff, I got them for just under $1,000, and the fit is not that great. I still haven't gotten to trying to get the rear bumpers on yet. But for that much money, I expected a little bit better workmanship with regards to especially the obvious difference between the front overriders that I pointed out. And I just I don't know how you can do that and sell stuff like that. But I guess I should, because we've all had those problems with bad aftermarket parts. So in hindsight, no, I would have kept bit the bullet, spent the extra money to get my front bumpers and my rears chromed, and had them done and looking good. So lesson learned, but that's what it's about half the time. So thanks for watching. Here we go. All right. That little thing there is a body spacer going between the body and the frame and at various points on the car. And thankfully, I heard that come off the car during one of the test drives yesterday. So unfortunately, however, the places that are easy to get to, there's a spacer underneath there, same on the other side, and then when the frame kind of comes into its, or starts coming out of its hourglass shape, there's two bolts under this the thing here, two under there, and then there's two where the hump comes up, which you're not going to be able to see, but the gas tank sits on top of that, and unfortunately I can't see those spacers. However, all the other ones are there, and there's only 6. So that means that if I want to replace that, the gas tank has got to come out, and just, so that's great. Not going to be doing that today. I had a couple spots that I missed on the frame here for the soft top, so I just touched them up with a paintbrush. I was thankfully smart enough to hold on to the black paint. I think what I might also do, if you remember, I didn't paint the frame for the driver's side in black. I painted it in gray, and now that I've got this paint left over and a paintbrush, I think I might pull the seat out real quick and paint that and get those little spots touched up. And I also got the rear view mirror in, so it's not a new one, it's an original one. You can see that there's chips and cracks in it, but that's from the black car. Dorothy's was there was no glass in it, if I remember right. Moving along, little steps. Obviously got the seat up here. Now I did a video on how to reupholster these things, and I'm not going to go through it step by step like I did with those. I think it was a multi-part series. I hope that this seat comes out a little bit better than the other one did. I expect it to, just from experience. The first thing you do is you put these tack strips in there, and they get pop riveted. And fortunately, the holes that pre-existed from those rivets that I took out, the old ones, are about the same size rivet-wise or hole-wise. So I just got to drill holes in the wood here to make it easier, and then pop rivet, and that's what you use to staple the upholstery to, the vinyl to. Real quick, just to show you, I'm getting ready to pop rivet these in. These are 3/16 inch pop rivets. So I drilled out the holes. I had to end up drilling out the holes a little bit for these. I also, you can maybe see that the wood's a little dark. I also got it wet just to prevent it from cracking, because it's a real thin piece of Luan, I think. So I'll just go ahead and pop rivet these in. Again, these are the tack strips. The instructions do say that these rivets, you don't want them sticking out too far. If you remember, the ones originally from the factory were just flush. Based on where they're sticking out, however, I don't intend to grind any of this off, because if you grind too far, then you pop out the center point that got compressed and mushroomed, and then the rivet is worthless. So I'm going to leave it the way it is. Just going to show a little bit. I'm not really all that concerned about it, so it should be fine. All right, put the foam backing on. I used the magnets in this case to help me to hold it there. You can see those discs, and that held it there real nicely, and I just took the scissors and kind of traced around to cut. You do want a little bit of a overhang so that you can attach it. 2 to 3 centimeters is what the instructions calls for. So I've got that pretty close. So I'm going to go ahead, take this off, spray it with glue, and then spray the seat back with glue, and then put it on. One thing I will point out is I've got this green painter's tape, and essentially what you're trying to do there is prevent the adhesive from going on the pressing that gives strength to the seat back, and then you pull the tape off and then put that pad on. It's just so you don't see the imprint of the X in the back. Now, when I did the driver's seat, I remembered to put the tape on, but then I forgot to take it off. So you can't really see it that well, but I'll give it another shot this time. that went pretty well. You got to just press as you work it and just make sure that the adhesive's all there. Also notice down there those black marks. I put little black marks near all the rivets and everything so that when I put the padding on, I was able to have reference marks. I can just slowly roll the corners over. Then you got to hold it there for a little bit and let the adhesive set up because the things will start to lift on you a little bit. So the next step now is, let's see, I don't even know, seat backing, maybe the horsehair stuff. Yep, so the next step is now the horsehair. I got that sitting over there, and that'll go on that part right there. You guys know I'm a sucker for these little unique tidbits and the little personality that the car has. This is that leather belt, and it's designed to hold in the soft top frame, which is what you see going down and around there, and it goes over top of the wheel wells. Now that's going to make noise as the car bounces around, but you know that's how it was done. And the soft top itself, when you're not using it, goes and gets stowed behind this thing. So again, pretty cool. That is the original belt too. I couldn't believe that Dorothy still had it, but she did. So this is the horsehair piece. Probably used to be horsehair back in the day. Now it's some string stuff, I don't know. And then you got a piece of batting that's in there, and that batting is going to go across the top just to provide some extra padding. So obviously this is pretty big. It needs to be cut to fit. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it, and it just gets glued and pressed into the seat back. One more thing I'll say, the instructions tell you to save the plastic that your seat kit came in, so don't go ripping this plastic apart. It's kind of weird. On the last one, I think I used a trash bag if I remember right, but essentially you're going to put plastic around the top edge here, and that's going to allow the vinyl seat cover to slide on a lot easier. So it's kind of interesting, but don't go ripping apart your plastic, or at least have a thin trash bag standing by. All right, the horsehair backing is all cut. I'm going to try to center it up here, put it down. All right, undercut a little bit, unfortunately, going around the top edges. A little reminder of what fits where. All right, that's all there is to that. Now the next step is a little weird. It has you run glue adhesive around the peripheral of it and then smash it down. And what you're trying to do is not have a real hard corner. So you're just kind of compressing the horsehair. If I remember right with the driver's side, this takes a lot of glue, and I'm almost out of glue. So I'm not too sure how far I'm going to get here. All right, well, unfortunately, I don't have enough glue here to keep going. I'm afraid if I start spraying and then run out, that I'm going to end up messing something up. So the last thing I did is this is that batting, and essentially the batting goes around the peripheral here to give you a softer edge. So you take it and you spray glue it real quick and then fold it in half. So then that'll get glued across the whole outer edge. And then the back cover will go on next after the plastic. Pull the driver's side out real quick, get that sanded and painted around the frame like I mentioned I was going to do, and call it a day. I got the seat frame painted up, more cosmetic than anything. I'm not going to do the wire rail because that would just be too much of a pain in the rear to get all that correct. So that's going to be it for me for today. I am back, and I've got some Permatex headliner adhesive. It is a little bit cheaper. I picked this up at Napa, so I got it locally. It was like 13 bucks, but it also is about an ounce and a half less of this stuff, so, you know, so be it. So essentially I'm going to continue on with the seat here, and hopefully I can wrap this up today. Batting and the plastic cover is on. I've had the squab seat back cover sitting out in the sun for a little bit here, so I'm essentially going to just pull it over and start working its way down. Again, the plastic's just for lubrication, I guess you could say. All right, so you continue to wrap it around and get it smoothed out. It says the piping should be right on the frame, give or take, so that's about where I'm at. Then I'm going to take these clips here, these little guys, kind of hard to see there, but they're essentially smooth on one side and clippy on the other side. Stick them, they go around the frame. It says initially you only need to use 2 or 3 of them, so I'm going to just bend this around. Now, it's kind of hard to see because I'm not that close, but you can see that I can see some metal of the seat frame here, and as I get to towards the other side of the seat, it kind of goes away. had the same problem or the same inconsistency with the other chair, and I think it's just, you can probably pretty obviously tell that the seat is not symmetrical on the two sides, and either I'm not pulling it hard enough or they don't have enough fabric, probably me, to get that down. So I'm going to try to make the point of not letting what happened on the driver's side happen here. Looks like I'm getting it down pretty good. No wrinkles, pretty well lined up, but you kind of see how you got a big old puffiness in there. So what's essentially going to happen is now we're going to take care of that in glue. All right, so that was probably my least favorite part, these flaps that you have to fold in. All right, but now I've got this all glued up in here, the horseshoe portion of it. So now I'll turn that guy over, and I'll press that in, and it should stick. All right, so now that that's done, we're going to go around, we're going to start stapling everything. All right, so now that we got the staple started, take that back. These flaps over here kind of get folded in and just made to look pretty. And this is kind of the part that I don't like. I just think it looks kind of hokey. But that's what you do. All right, so there you go. It's a little crooked, but so be it. But this padding is nice and deep inside the seat, unlike the driver's seat is not that nice. It's not too bad, but it's not quite as nice. But yeah, actually that's a little crooked, so not much I can do about that now. Should have paid attention to that. If you can see, it kind of rises to the left a little bit, but it's all good. I'm just going to sit in it. So you can see I've kind of have some marks here, and essentially what this block of area represents is this cutout in the seat foam. Now the seat foams, now you can see where this seam is and all the way around. From what I understand, this whole entire kind of top piece is not attached now when you get the kits. So you essentially glue this down, and then there's these wings over here. They get folded over and glued and everything like that, and then you put that second piece of foam on top. Obviously I can't do that, so I essentially will glue here and glue inside this area, get that down, and then just kind of make it work to get the outer portions of it all done. It gets a little tricky, but it worked out pretty well on the other seat, so I'm not expecting too many problems. So the pad, the upholstery is under here. You can't see it, it's flipped over, but you got the seat frame in here with the plastic, or excuse me, the cardboard reinforcement. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to fold over the flaps on the vinyl, and it's going to kind of grab, and then I'll poke some holes in it and use zip ties. I'm using zip ties instead of bull rings. Hog rings, I meant, not bull rings. Bull ring is something you see in Spain. Alright, so it pretty much goes something like that. You can see the nice dish in there. This also looks better than the driver's side, of course, but much easier if that design modification that they made had actually happened. So there's still some creases and stuff in it, like you can see there. There's one over here. I just got to play with the foam a little bit, try to get that out of there. All right, well, the seat's done. I did forget to punch holes in the back for the seat clip, but I can feel the indentation, so I'm not too worried about it. Happier with the way that this one came out. There's a little, like, the seat cushion's not quite, kind of droops over here a little bit, but it's the passenger seat, and I'm sure it'll kind of level out as time goes on. The glue, that Permatex stuff worked really well. I like the way it sprays better. That's a lot easier to control the fan than I found with the 3M stuff. But so the seats are done. So I don't have the bolts, unfortunately, for the passenger seat. You'd think with all this stuff I got laying around, I would have them, but I don't. So I got to pick them up. But that's going to be it for tonight. Got the seat clip back on, and essentially there's a spring that's in here, and the spring lays right up against the vinyl, which I don't really like, but and this thing just clips. You can see the hook down here, and it clips into the seat rail so that the seat doesn't come up on you, but it also will allow it to pivot. And the bolts that I had mentioned that I don't have, I now have. So these are just little 1/4 inch fine thread, 3/4 inch long, 2 washers to go on either side, and then a lock nut because you don't want it to tighten so much that you can't rotate the thing. So I'll go ahead and get all that stuff in and get both seats in for, wow, I don't remember the last time both seats were in this car. Long time. All right, well, passenger seat is in. It generally came out better, that seat. You can see that it's got a pronounced kind of ledge in the front, I guess, and this one doesn't have that. That was part of the look. I think the seat back is pressed in more. I think I pointed that out. So, as you would expect, the second time around is a charm, at least better than the first. With the exception of this rear piece of carpet, which I still can't figure out, the interior is essentially done. I did forget that and the ashtray, I did forget that I did not put the trip odometer reset thing back in. And I've been struggling with it for the last 15 minutes to try and get it in with the gauge cluster in the dash, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do that, which is unfortunate. The tachometer cable is still fighting with me also. I think what I'm going to do now is pull the starter. As you heard when I started it last time, the starter was making some weird noises. So just as a precaution, just to take a look and see what's going on in there and see if there's any evidence of damage or chip into the teeth or metal, metal against metal contact that really shouldn't be there. I'll just take a look real quick. It's only 2 bolts. Hopefully this doesn't too much of a pain in the rear to get out. Pull the starter out, and I don't see any wear or any indications of fresh metal scrapings on the starter, on the Bendix gear at all, or on the flywheel. I don't know what that noise was, and I assume it's the starter. Excuse me. One of my viewers said it's, that's just kind of how they sound sometimes. So I'm just going to put it back in now and, call it good. Welcome back, everybody. It's Saturday, so I have to have a confession to make. I kind of told you guys a little fib. This here is the rear view mirror from Dorothy. Originally, I had mentioned that it was cracked, and I was digging through a parts bin up in my attic yesterday and came across this. So it's in really, really bad shape. However, it's all sun bleached. Plastic is falling apart and damaged. The mirror here, if you can see the edging of the mirror is worn out from the whatever the mirror paint stuff is. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not going to try to repair that, but I am going to try to clean this up and then try something that I've seen other people do but never have done personally, and just use some spot putty and fill in the outsides and see if I kind of reshape this, and then paint it. This piece is metal, and you can see that there's no vanity cover on this one like there is on the one that I put in. So I'm not sure. It is stamped made in England on the back of this thing from the black car, so I assume it's original. It's obviously in much better shape. There is some printing on the back of this, but I can't read it. It's all obliterated for the most part. CARD looks like on the main line, and it almost looks like, I can't even tell. So if you can see that lettering there, and then it kind of goes away. So out of curiosity, if anybody knows what a good one is supposed to say, I'd be interested to know that. But just going to take some sandpaper to it, play around with it, and see if I can't make it pretty. Otherwise, today I'm going to, over there is the soft top that I want to try to save and reuse. It's a Robin soft top. It's in pretty good shape. I'm going to clean that up and try to get that fit to the car and show you how that works. And then the only other issue that I'm going to work on today is the tachometer and the speedometer. Try to get that reset. And the tach, I had to pull the glass out because the cable was pushing the whole entire body of the tach into the glass and causing the needle to stick. So I want to see if I can figure that out. what I've got for that in this box right here is a bunch of cork gasket material, and I'm hoping that the cork gasket will be stronger than what I put back in there and prevent the gauge from flexing as much. So I'm gonna stop talking now. Man, that smell brings back a lot of memories. All right, well, that looks like a mess, but we'll let this set up, come back to it with some sandpaper and see if it works. Got the tachometer out. So this under here, these two screws right here are what will pull the tack out of the front, and inside there is a little rubber seal, and I think that's the little seal that's breaking down, and just looking at it doesn't look like I replaced that. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that off and show you that. So there's the guts of the tachometer. This is the little wheel here that spins when you put the cable in and the cable starts spinning. There's a little magnet in there, and the faster that, it's like a little motor almost, a little generator. The faster that spins, the more that'll start to displace the wheel and gives you speedometer, or excuse me, tachometer. And so this here is the little rubber seal, and that's in pretty bad shape. It's like sticky and falling apart. So I'm going to try to copy this and recreate it in the cork. What I'm afraid of is, you can see it's kind of a complicated seal where it's got those extra little tabs in there. So I might have to do 2 pieces or something like that. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to try to do that with the cork. Try to keep this in good shape in case worse comes to worse. I don't, destroy it totally. So see what happens here. The cork gasket taken care of here. Hopefully it's going to work. This one's not as nice. We got to trim this actually. Now the combination hopefully is going to be the right thickness. We'll see. So I'll go ahead and put the guts back in here. So the holes here on the edges where the screws, since you've got this little metal bushing here, I want the holes in the cork to be as big as the bushing portion, not the screw. So I'm going to drill these holes out a little bit further so that that bushing can fit all the way through there. That way I think that'll give me a relief, and it won't be, it won't stand off. I think that whole thing is supposed to fit down in there, kind of like that, so that it's flush like that, if you can see that. So we'll take piece of cork here, slide it down over the threads. It's a little tight. Line it up with the holes. Get it on there nice and flush. As flush as I can get it. Drop it in. Alright, concerned for getting it centered up in here. So now that's sitting pretty solid in there. Doesn't really seem to be moving, and I think that's what was happening. I mean, it still moves, but what was happening is the tack cable was coming in and pushing the gauge face forward into the glass. Hopefully that's not going to happen now. Put the little beauty ring in there, and that gets a little seal on it. All right, if you look, you can see that that needle moves freely in there. Doesn't return to zero that great, but I'm okay with that. I think that return spring's probably getting weak. So now that hopefully works. There's not a whole lot of flex in here, at least not as much as it was, so I'm hoping this cork will work. Now that I've made a hole in the dash, I can get to the reset for the trip odometer a lot easier, so I'm gonna go ahead, hopefully and get that screwed in and get all this back together. All right, back in. I'm probably have to wait, since the battery I'm sure is dead. I'll have to wait to see if it really works. But it feels better. It doesn't feel like it's the cable in there is moving the gauge face like it was. So hopefully that solved it. All right, so now I got this bunch of filler on this thing. We're just gonna take some sandpaper here and see if it works. I have a feeling that maybe the filler didn't stick to the plastic very well, so hopefully I didn't just wreck everything, but let's see. Well, it's coming out okay. A lot of sanding, obviously. There's some parts where the stuff didn't stick, like down here, but it feels okay enough. I'm not gonna really worry about it. But you can see that I put on way too much filler, as I always did. So I'm just going at it with 100 grit right now. I'll go down to 220 before it's ready to paint. So I think it's gonna come out okay. It did adhere to it. I was a little worried that it wouldn't adhere to the plastic. So some of it's kind of chunking off, but for the most part, it's sticking pretty well. Finished up with the sanding and everything, came out pretty good. There's a little spot right here that is really weak, and the plastic is still sun bleached and faded, and it keeps powdering up so that the filler's not sticking to it at all. And I'm afraid if I keep doing it, I'm going to eventually blast through. The other side doesn't look bad, but I'm afraid that I'm going to break through and then not be happy. So I'm going to leave that all gutted, but everything else came out pretty well. Looks halfway decent. I'm going to hit it with a couple coats of primer. Oh, also the stalk here. Hit it with a couple coats of primer, and then a couple coats of black, and then put the mirror back in. So it'll be a little bit, but hopefully it'll look good when it's done. So I will try to show you how the soft top works. So right now the rail here is completely down inside the springs, and they're compressed. And you do like a twist here. They've got little things that stick out. You can twist and you lock it. It's a pretty beefy spring. This is under a halfway decent amount of tension. It makes me fear for the paint. I'll just leave it at that. All right, so you essentially will start from the back and work your way up. The soft top fits onto the clips that are in the back there. I didn't clean this up yet. So, all right, so you slide, there's a piece of metal in the back here. You slide that up and into the clips. Snap everything on. And I'm not sure that all these snaps are going to fit because this top did not come. Usually the tops will come, from what I understand anyway, without the snaps. And then you put them in, so I don't know if it's all going to line up or not. It seems to be so far. Alright, so that was pretty easy. Now, I think I'm doing this right. Now you've also got metal clips in the front here, and they kind of sit inside and wrap around inside the chrome trim piece that's up here. All right, well I almost got it. I'm not going to force that. All right, so now you can see that the top's kind of floppy and all that kind of stuff. I didn't put the other bow rail across, so I'm going to get in the car and do that real quick, and then I'll pop the springs, and hopefully the top stays there and doesn't go flying. All right, kind of tight quarters in here, obviously. You got that strap, it comes and snaps. This center bow here comes around, it gets snapped in up here, and you can see that, but it's still not incredibly tight. I could not get this snap to snap. I think I told you that already. Go ahead and pop these springs one at a time, and it's gonna put that top under tension. Now, I don't expect it to be too violent, hopefully not, but essentially what I'm gonna do is twist these and kind of cross my fingers and hope that I don't mess something up. All right, well, it didn't even lift up. Try the other one. All right, well, I guess it's about as much tension it's going to get. Now, the other top that I have that came with Dorothy, I mean, it popped pretty good and tightened it up. All right, so what I'm going to do is just leave her on, let it stretch out, and see if it, when I come back, if it snaps a little higher or anything like that. But that's what the car looks like with the soft top. I think it looks kind of good, actually. I like the look of it with the soft top, and it obviously makes stuff a little tighter in there. But I do like the look with it, especially with the white, with going with the wheels. So hopefully I can get that thing cleaned up really well too. Time for coat number 2 on my rearview mirror. Got all the pieces, parts painted and everything for the side view or for the rearview mirror. Not real crazy about how it came out, but it's better than how it looked, and hopefully this will help it hold up a little bit better. So obviously I've got to let it dry. I can't put the mirror back together. I did find a video on YouTube, go figure, about how to resilver these things, and it doesn't seem too difficult. There's kits out there, I guess, so I might look into that. I'm not so sure that it's going to be worth it in this case. You know, it depends on the price of the kit, but we'll take a look. All right, everybody, that's all I got. Thanks so much for watching. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you think. Well, soft top fits. Thanks again. Have a good rest of your day. Stay healthy. Cheers.